And that's what we live with. So we've got this contradictory notion of be a virgin, but be really good at sex. Don't be too sexual. Be submissive, but you need to please the man, so you need to know what you're doing. And that's constantly what women are being told. She even talked about how like identifying as a feminist was something she struggled with. Now, I'm someone that's always been a feminist. And I think a lot of people find that really weird, like you're burning bras and you're, you know, all up in people's face. If you believe that women are disproportionately supported, that they are suppressed in society and that they deserve true equality, then you're a feminist. That's about it. So she was saying that she disassociated with the word because of all the stigma that's attached to it and all the judgment that's attached to it, and then realised over time that her entire life work is around women's rights, and that by default makes her a feminist. There's also a really interesting part here that I wanted to talk about because it's also something I've always thought about. So this fawning response that I mentioned earlier, she said that it's basically women coming out socially and saying that they are wanting to be submissive, that they crave to be dominated, that they're in need of protection, that they are not overly sexual, but they're not a prude, and they're not crazy, angry women, they're nice daddy's girls. Now, again, with modern dating, what I found is constantly there's profiles around, I'm a dominant looking for a submissive, and I have been told as a woman by many men, women want a dominant partner. Women want to be submissive. If you're not interested in the dominant, submissive, sexual type, it's because someone hasn't done it properly for you, because that's what you should ultimately want sexually. This is something that I have never identified with. I don't identify with this. And I'm not a prude. I don't want to be dominated in the bedroom. Call me crazy. So what I find interesting is that there's that push, but this fawning response is that women have internalized, that they've understood that that's what men want. So women will say to you, to your face, you know, I'm submissive. That's what I want. And I'm always thinking in my head, like, blink twice if that's false. Like, where's that come from? Because I don't necessarily think that's what you want. People have these kinks, and these kinks are a way to say, oh no, I'm the girl that will go with it. Sex should feel safe. And the amount of women that will have unsafe sex, in the sense that they will have sex and feel so lonely, so isolated, so disconnected, because women feel sex emotionally. For you to be able to say that you want this submissive, this controlling sex that is devoid of that love, I don't think it's true. I think you've internalized it. And I think this is something that she's brought up and kind of validated what I've always felt in that sense. Now, I'm not talking about if you have a more kinky sex life, that's absolutely fine, and you have code words and there's safety and respect. But a lot of ways that men are using this submissive dominant categorization is as a way to have a free for at it, you know, be able to say, this is what I want, this is what I want to do, and push this on women who appease a man, but at the detriment of their emotional space. And a lot of women won't talk about it. But after sex, they have pleased a man, but they've got nothing out of the interaction. And that leaves you feeling completely like bereft as a woman, because that's not how sex should feel for a woman. So it's interesting that has come from internalized misogyny and how we believe sex should be. And again, that links back to porn as well. Men want it to be performative, women want it to be emotionally intimate. They're not the same thing. And if you are pushing for pleasing in that performative pornographic way, is it actually supporting your sensuality and sexuality as a woman? So again, what was really interesting is that she talked here about 10 signs of internalized misogyny in women. So I'm going to say them to you now because I think they're really, really important. So number 1, you slut shame yourself or others for how you dress. 2, you experience threat and competition with other women. 3, you shame yourself for cellulite, wrinkles, body rolls, or you try and minimize these things to be more desirable for the male gaze. Number 4, you feel the need to be consistently pleasant, accommodating, and compliant. Number 5, you suck your belly in to look thinner. Number 6, you give more credibility to men's respect, appraisal, praise, or criticism than women's. Number 7, you perpetuate traditional oppressive gender roles in the name of divine, sacred feminine. So she was talking about in spiritual circles, this divine feminine is still the archetype of the Madonna. This Christian idea that you embody ripe and fertile and pregnant and glowing, and you are the epitome of mother and Mother Earth, but it's all still that oppressive framework. Number 8, you worry about what you eat and diet often to keep up beauty standards. 9, you declare I'm not a feminist. 10, you constantly say I'm sorry or apologise. So again, she was talking about how for women, a lot of us do that consistently, and it's not with judgment, it's just tracking where that comes from and whether that's a core belief or whether it's a learnt belief. She also talks about how in a lot of women's sphere, with careers expanding, we've taken on this misogynistic patriarchal lens of competition instead of collaboration. Again, this is something I feel incredibly passionate about. I've not been a competitive human being. I'm always a collaborative human being, and I've found that that's quite jarring because a lot of people want to compete. As women, we shouldn't be competing with each other. We should be sharing our resources so that we can live a happy life. Like, having conversations with women constantly about their weight is incredibly draining and triggering for me. Why are we not having enlightening, beautiful conversations about how to feel healthier and nicer and celebrate our differences instead of constant competition with each other? Food for thought. I can clearly see that this is going to go into 2 parts, so I'm probably going to release this as 2 parts, but there was just so much good stuff in this particular webinar that I just wanted to share, because I think as women it's something that we should be reflecting on. So she talks about ways that you can kind of reprogram. So she gave a few journal ideas, but kind of considering where some of the stuff that you think comes from. She also talked about slut-shaming, which is really interesting because she says slut-shaming is actually most policed as women by women. So obviously men slut-shame women, but women have a very intense view of how other people dress, and women categorise women quite quickly as well through this lens of internalized misogyny. So she talks about being sexy and hot is ideal, but not too overly sexual. That's what femininity wants to get. That's the peak of modern femininity. And women shouldn't be talking about sex. And that's how we label them as slut-shaming. So women who talk about birth control openly, women who talk about their sexual partners openly, women who wear provocative clothing and then become a victim of sexual assault, women who engage in sex work, women who have casual sex. These are all people that will be categorised as sluts and will be slut-shamed. And when you are slut-shamed, it has a detrimental effect on how you're viewed by society. You get punished, you get viewed, people talk about you, and there's always a negative ramification. So women are kind of policing themselves and policing other women. And maybe you should start reflecting on, are you policing other women? Is that your business? Why do we do that? Is it coming from us or is it coming from a voice we've learned? Interestingly, she said a lot of the slut shaming you'll actually interpret from women in your life. And I've always found this resonates really highly with me. I don't get a lot of my issues around my body, around my sexuality, around me as a woman from men. I get the men desire you, don't respect you type of thing that we've all had from dating world, but it's women that have created this toxicity in how I've viewed myself and what I'm unlearning in adulthood. And so she talks about women are the mantle. It's your mother's critical voice of what you're wearing, or your grandmother's. It's your mother's critical voice of what you weigh and how you contribute and how you should be submissive. How when you've been loud, it's a woman that's probably chastised you for it. Very interesting, because it's the misogyny, but it's also women who are perpetuating it. Very, very interesting. And then she had a moment